You're listening to Soundside. I'm Libby Denkman. From New York to Phoenix, at least 14 major airports across the country will see ICE agents deployed today, according to White House border czar Tom Homan. The immigration agents are being sent to bolster TSA staffing amid an ongoing partial federal government shutdown. In many places, that has led to security checkpoint lines that stretch for blocks and have travelers waiting hours to get to their flights. But it's been a different picture at SeaTac, at least for now. To discuss what's been happening at the airport and what may be coming down the line, Port of Seattle Commissioner Sam Cho is here. Thank you very much, Commissioner, for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So CNN quoted the general manager of the TSA agents at Hartsfield-Jackson Airport in Atlanta saying that more than a third of TSA agents there have called out today, and the wait times are many hours long. What is the picture right now at SeaTac?
Yeah, well, at Seattle-Tacoma International Airport, our absentee rate stands at around 10%, so significantly lower than what you heard about from Atlanta or Houston or some of these other airports. Our wait times are fairly normal. On average, it's about 15 minutes. I mean, you might have some peak hours where it's closer to 30, but generally we haven't seen any anomalies over the last few weeks as it pertains to how long it takes to get through TSA.
So how is SeaTac doing this? I mean, why or what's going on to mean that staffing is relatively normal, even as TSA agents are not being paid?
Yeah, I think there's a couple of things here. First, we stood up a food pantry at the airport where the public can donate non-perishable foods, household items, even gas gift cards to really help supplement the needs of these TSA workers during these tough times. But secondly, we've actually dedicated some personnel of our own to supplement and augment the TSA agents as their attrition rate hits 10% or higher. These are basically non-regulatory roles, people who are standing at the lines, ushering people to the right lines, people providing guidance. Basically the role that you would expect an ICE agent to do if they were augmented TSA, we have volunteered our people to do it instead. And so we have made it such that we have not given Department of Homeland Security a reason to deploy ICE at our airport.
How long can this last, Commissioner? I mean, right now we have about a 10% call out rate in Seattle, but people are not getting paid, and they were going to have to make other choices for themselves eventually, or many will. Is this sustainable for Seattle, do you think?
No, I don't think it's sustainable for anyone. Quite honestly, they're about to miss 2.5 paychecks by the end of the week. At a certain point, there's a breaking point. You can't just continue to work endlessly without getting paid. People have mortgages, rent to pay, and other bills. And at a certain point, you're going to run out of funds, and you're going to make the tough choice to leave the work at TSA in order to go do other jobs that will provide some cash flow. And so it's really unfortunate. We've been fortunate here at SCA to see that lower attrition rate. But, if this continues to be prolonged for several more weeks, I mean, I would not be surprised if we start to see our attrition rate creep up as well.
President Trump said yesterday that ICE agents will be conducting immigration arrests at the airports where they're deployed, but, quote, that is not why they're there. They're really there to help. Trump also said he was ordering agents to go without masks, as they typically use masks in their field work. If needed, he did say he would deploy the National Guard. Are you concerned about the prospect in the future of ICE agents being deployed at SeaTac? What kind of communication are you getting?
Yeah, we have not received any official word that ICE will be deployed at SCA anytime soon, obviously, because we maintain a low attrition rate, like I said earlier. The deployment of ICE in our terminal has been a concern, quite frankly, for the last year and a few months, right? Ever since this administration came into office, it's been a concern. I want to be really clear. ICE has a presence at all international airports, regardless of the situation with TSA. They are the ones under, the Department of Homeland Security who work with CBP officers when you go through customs and cross the border on an international flight. So every international airport already has a CBP and ICE presence. Now, what makes this different is that they are now being asked to perform functions that are not within their line of duty, right? And so that really asks a lot of legal questions around whether or not they're allowed to do that, whether or not they're allowed to do certain functions at TSA. We know that they can't do things like screen bags or anything like that. They're not trained to do that, right? So the question then becomes, what are they actually there to do? And I'm sure people have seen the photos and videos of ICE agents just kind of standing around the TSA lines. It's really questionable what value these ICE agents are adding to the situation in TSA checkpoints.
So currently, you haven't heard that there would be like a certain threshold for TSA absences that would trigger ICE deployment. You just don't have that information from DHS right now.
No, to my knowledge, there's no threshold per se. I think it's going to be a combination of absentee rate plus wait times, right? So you could still have a low absentee rate, but you might have 2-3 hour lines, right? Which might warrant the deployment of ICE. You could have the opposite situation as well. And so I think it's going to be a combination of how long are these waits relative to how they would be in normal times, and also in consideration of how many officers are starting to call out.
I want to switch gears just a little bit, but it is
Yeah.
related to the chaos and anxiety that travelers are feeling right now. And that is, I wanted to ask you about the accident at LaGuardia late on Sunday when an Air Canada jet collided with a fire truck, and we had 2 pilots killed, 43 people taken to the hospital. A lot of unknowns still about what happened here. But the audio that was released of an air traffic controller talking in the wake of the incident suggested that he was juggling both air traffic and ground traffic at the same time, which is, again, we don't know the details here, but it suggests that staffing could have been one of the challenges at play. And I just wanted to get your reaction to that, as we've heard about air traffic control staffing being an issue for years now.
Yeah. Well, look, I think that we are seeing a tremendous amount of attrition among the federal ranks, not just at FAA, but TSA, DHS, etc. What's important to realize here, and through this example of what happened in New York, is that just because the shutdown ends doesn't mean that things go back to normal, right? Just because the shutdown ends doesn't mean that the people who quit come back, right? And so there are medium to long-term effects beyond just the shutdown. If TSA is bleeding hundreds of TSA workers every day, just because the shutdown ends doesn't mean that everything goes back to normal. We're going to have to recruit again. We're going to have, and this is on top of already having a shortage at these airports and in these functions at ATC and CBP, right? Part of the reason that I think we at the Seattle Tacoma International Airport was better prepared for this situation is because our airport has always had a shortage of TSA workers. For if you ask my constituents about one of their biggest pain points at the airport, it's always been TSA lines, and we've had to adapt, and we've actually had to supplement TSA workers for years now. And it's not something new to us because we've had to deal with those worker shortages. A prolonged shutdown exacerbates that, and the reverberation and the effects of that shutdown will continue beyond just the shutdown's end.
Any final thoughts here before we go, Commissioner? I'm talking with Sam Cho, Commissioner of the Port of Seattle. Anything that you would like to leave people with when it comes to what they're seeing at airports across the country? And again, we have not seen the wait times stretching out at SeaTac the way we have at many places. Any final thoughts?
Yeah, look, trying not to get political here, but what I do want to say is that, while these people may be working for the federal government, these are workers who come from our communities. They're our neighbors, they're our friends, they live among us, and those who have chosen to remain in their jobs are really doing the public a huge service. And so, obviously, every time you go to the airport, thank those people for continuing to remain committed to their work. And if your local airport has an opportunity for you to make a donation and or support these workers, it goes a long way. Look, no one wants to be in this situation, right? This is why we pay taxes, right? That our tax money is supposed to go towards paying these workers. But I believe that in the absence of leadership in the federal government, it's up to us as a community to step up and support our own. And I've been very encouraged by the response, as you said, that I've seen on Reddit and other social media channels where people have offered, without me even having to prompt it, to donate, to contribute, whether it's online or in person. So let's just support those folks who continue to show up despite being asked to work without any compensation.
We're seeing that there's a GoFundMe set
Yeah.
up for TSA workers to support them when they're not getting paid. That's one way that people can help.
Absolutely. So we set up a GoFundMe yesterday, actually, as a response to the community request. We are going to be using now those funds to purchase those non-perishable goods, those household items and gas cards. I want to be clear that GoFundMe is not being used to directly provide cash to these TSA workers. That really goes against some of the gift rules and ethics rules on the federal government, but they will be used to help these families with things even like diapers and stuff like that.
Got it. Sam Cho chairs the Port of Seattle's Aviation Committee. Commissioner, thank you very much for being here.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for listening to Soundside. Don't forget you can listen live on KUOW 94.9 FM Seattle at noon and 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, or anytime online at KUOW.org or on your favorite podcast app.